They both had been martyred there. These are the people who lived for 20 years under hardship, bullets, bombings, and night raids. Somber stories of oppression and terror. Deep marks from the past visible on the faces of the local people. Unspoken memories that remain in their hearts like unhealed wounds. Zermatt. During 20 years of occupation. Festering wounds. Zermatt district witnessed some of the most painful days in history during the 20-year occupation. Simple mud houses were targets of daytime shelling and tank attacks. And at night they were subjected to the ruthless bombings of aircraft. No night passed without explosions. And no day passed without bloodshed or the martyrdom of innocent civilians. In this documentary, we have recorded only the horrors that took place on the second night of Eid al-Adha in the year 1399, 2020. Committed by American forces in Zermatt district. Haji Ofat, a resident of Zermatt, had his home raided on the second night of Eid. The intruding forces martyred members of his family. We hear the story of that night's terror, suffering, pain, and oppression from his own words. They were so brutal that I wouldn't even call them human beings. Because of what they did to us. We reported them to the authorities. And I told them, don't give these people any power. I wouldn't even call them wild animals. Because even wild animals don't attack someone all at once. Even they have some patience. But these impatient people, what they did was terrible. My 20-day-old granddaughter was there. And they even dragged her out of the room. They took us out of the room as well and left those boys inside. The point is, whatever cruelty was in their hearts, they carried it out. They made all kinds of noises to frighten them. So, they did whatever brutality and barbarism they were able to commit. So that they could frighten us. There was no humanity in them wherever they stooped us. Whether it was a checkpoint or anything else they did, it was always through intimidation and brutality. They never dealt with a person in a humane way. Nor did they gather information in a humane manner. Everything they did was inhuman. They forced us, my mom and others in the room out of the house. In the rooms where the boys were kept. They placed 2 people in each room. Those 2 people were elevated to the high station of martyrdom. When it became 3 o'clock, they didn't inform us, they just left. After they left, we only heard sounds. The sounds were dull, muffled noises. I told my honorable mother, I swear you will not see the boys alive. Because the sound was like some kind of fading, dying noise. The boys were targeted, we will not see them again. The soil of Zermatt was soaked with the blood of young men who had many dreams for their future. This cemetery has become the eternal resting place of countless innocent people who possessed neither weapons nor the means to defend themselves. There was another man as well. One of them was from our village, named Azazullah. Another man was a farmer, He was from Musa Kale village and sometimes worked in farming. He too was martyred. There was another one named Fathullah, who also worked as a farmer near his home, and he too was martyred. Little children were left behind there. Another man named Fida Muhammad, who was the Imam of the Blessed Mosque, the son of Mullah Muhammad Yusuf, he was also martyred in the middle of the village. And 4 of the martyrs were from our own family. One was my son, Shafiullah Jan, who was a teacher at the high school and held a bachelor's degree from Sheikh Zayed University. The second was my son who studied at Khalifa Sahib Fahim's madrasa, he too was martyred. The third was my nephew, Ansarullah Jan, a second-year student in education and training, teacher training, in Paktia province and was martyred in my house. The fourth was Hayatullah Jan, my nephew, who had come just 2 days earlier from Kabul. He had a job in Kabul in the Department of Education and Training. He too was martyred. So, 4 members of our family were martyred in our home. A raid was carried out on our house. They climbed over the walls and some entered through the door making terrifying noises. Then they separated us. The operation started at 11 o'clock and continued until 3 in the night. When we went there was a wall between us. On the other side of that wall the boys were lying soaked in blood, martyred.
Qudratullah, another resident of Kalalgo village, lost his son Ansarullah, who was a student at Paktia's Faculty of Education. He had returned home for Eid, but intruding forces martyred him inside his own home.
It was the second night of Eid al-Adha. My son, who was a university student, would go to the university on his motorcycle without any problem. That night, my 2 nephews were also there, one named Shafiullah Jan, and the other named Aina Mullah Jan, and my sister's son, Hayatullah Jan, and my own son named Ansarullah Jan. It was around midnight when planes were flying heavily over us and circling around the compound. One of my daughters, the youngest one, was with me. I told her, I think this raid is on us, not on anyone else. Right away, the door was blown open with a mine. We hadn't even turned off the lights because we knew this raid was on us, and no one else. When I looked, the soldiers' faces became visible. I told my daughter, the soldiers have reached the veranda. I said, the door has already been destroyed, they have definitely come in. When I looked down from the staircase, there were 200 to 300 soldiers inside the courtyard.
Those who once waited eagerly for the return of their loved ones now look only toward their graves on the mountainside, shedding their tears over them. Qudratullah endured years of hardship to secure a bright future for his son. But American soldiers took his son from him through martyrdom.
They took my other son with them, my sister's son, my 2 nephews, and the other one who was a student, and my son who was a university student. They gathered them all together in the hallway. The situation was terrible, there were loud bangs and crashes. We didn't know what was happening or what their intentions were. The raid lasted for 2 to 3 hours. They told us, do not move from your place. Turn off the lights. When screams were heard from my brother Dr. Ulfat's house, all 4 of them had already been martyred. They were shot in the forehead. And the bullets had exited from the back of their heads. One of them had even had his eye blown out.
Abdullah's home was also among the places struck with terror on the second night of Eid 2020 in Kalalgo village. That night, the raiding forces martyred Abdullah's two sons, one a teacher and the other a shopkeeper, with great cruelty.
We were both in the room when those infidel soldiers entered. They climbed onto the veranda and even came into my room. When they entered, they searched me. I was sitting quietly in my place. They said, "Stand up." They searched me, and they also searched my son. Then they said, "Come outside." When we went outside, they made me stand in one hallway and took my son into another hallway. They brought the other boy out as well and searched him too. They asked, "What do you do?" I said, "These three sons of mine, these two have shops in Ghazni. And this one is a teacher." They said, "All right, we won't do anything to them." Then they communicated on the radio and said, "Shaheen, what should we do now?" Shaheen told them, "Don't listen to these words, finish the job." After that, they martyred both boys there. And the other two they martyred over here. We were not aware that they had martyred the boys. I said, "What are you doing? We have nothing with us. Why are you taking them? You will release them again." They replied, "Don't step outside or the aircraft will strike you." I sat down, frightened. There was my wife as well, and the soldiers left. I went outside. I said, "Where are they? Let me go see." They both had been martyred there.
The sorrow and pain that fell upon the hearts of Kalalgo's people are so deep that words and sentences cannot describe them. These pains are like a silent flame rising from the depths of the heart, burning the chest, yet the tongue cannot express them.
I entrusted the matter to Allah. I say to the whole world that Allah is very merciful. He gave me courage and strength.
It was these pain-filled moments and acts of terror that motivated the brave youth of the homeland to resist the occupiers and struggle to re-establish an Islamic system. Mujahideen, inspired by the tears of mothers, the suffering of orphans, and the blood of martyrs, stood up against the enemy. They fought, at the cost of their lives, for an Islamic system, for their sacred land and for the defense of their oppressed people, confronting American soldiers and their allies. Their every step was accompanied by the remembrance of Allah and the prayers of the Afghan nation. And finally, after 20 years of struggle, endurance, sacrifice, and the blood of thousands of martyrs, these courageous fighters succeeded in lifting the shadow of occupation from Afghanistan's blessed land. Today, the people of Kalalgo live in peace and tranquility.
Praise be to Allah, the Islamic Emirate has come. There is security and peace. Everyone is busy with their work. We are very happy with the Islamic Emirate. Now there is security, even if you stay out until midnight, or the whole night. You can work with peace of mind. There is no problem at all. Work is much better now, better than before.
As a national, independent, and dedicated media outlet, we reflect the voice of the people and present the atrocities, horrors, and crimes committed during the 20-year occupation of Afghanistan to both citizens and the international community in a documentary format. If you have witnessed incidents such as raids, killings, atrocities, or other crimes committed by foreign occupying forces in your area during the 20-year occupation, you can share them with us via WhatsApp. We will document these accounts in English and Arabic, in addition to our national languages, and prioritize them for broadcast on national television. Our contact number, 074-434-3668.